Good evening. 33 years in 31 days, day 12, looking at 2001. Welcome along, those of you that are here and watching. Thank you for joining. Replay viewers, thank you for dropping in as well. Do try and share it out if you can. Let me know what you think. Drop me some comments in the text fields. Let me know what you think of these broadcasts and what we're doing. But welcome along. Good evening. Releasing in 31 days, 31 live consecutive broadcasts, and we're on day 12, looking at 2001. Now, if you're watching yesterday, you'll know that in the year 2000, I decided that having moved to this house where I'm in now and how far away I was from work in Greater Manchester, that an application to Cheshire to transfer was a sensible thing to do. And so the application went in. As we discussed yesterday, my knees had both had surgery on by this point, and the doctor just wrote, I saw a copy of the letter, and he wrote a letter for Cheshire, who were querying my injury, and said, I confirm he had surgery on both of his knees, and put nothing else. As a consequence, Cheshire Police said, we're not having you. We don't want you. So I was left in a position there where I thought, what am I going to do about this? What should I do? Because when I considered the letter that the doctor had written, I thought he hadn't written a letter that said he's had the surgery on his knees, he's made a full recovery, he's fit well, operating on a 24/7 shift pattern, chasing burglars and doing his job without issue, is fine. Now, with hindsight, a little later, I looked at that and I thought, well, you know what? Maybe it's not such a bad thing, because 2001 was also a very important year for me and my family, because it was the year that my first child was born. And it suddenly dawned on me, I'd got a good job in a good position. I could do the job standing on my head, was perfectly fine and comfortable, and had a good relationship with the whole team and the supervision and everything. New baby arrives on the scene. Things can be complicated and difficult, and there's nothing worse than turning up, I'm sure, for your first day or in your first week at your new job in a new force and saying, any chance I can get away at 3 o'clock because I've got a childcare issue, my wife's got to get to work, and could have been a nightmare. So in some regards, and with hindsight, when I looked back at it, I thought maybe it wasn't such a bad thing. Maybe it wasn't such a bad thing that I'd been rejected and that I was staying in Manchester, because ultimately, in circumstances where your personal situation is changing very quickly and developing, and you don't quite know how it's all going to unfold, it's sometimes better the devil you know. And so instead of challenging the decision and instead of challenging the letter from the GP, I actually concluded that, you know what, I'm going to stick with it for now and just stay where I am. And that's exactly what I did. So that was the big thing for this family in 2001. Otherwise, I was still working and doing the traffic policing in South Manchester. Now, what I'm going to do now is talk a little bit of history about the station that I was working in, and also the station where I'd come from. So if you remember right at the very start, we talked about being posted to the D division, and I was posted on the D North, and I was working at Withington Police Station, which was a porter cabin down a side street in Withington, and Chalton Police Station, which was a little office bit at the end of the bus station in Chalton. Two very, very small police stations. But that's where I was working. The CID were based at Didsbury Police Station, So it was like another police station again, and we were scattered about a bit. But during the time when I was still on section and doing response policing, they started building a police station on Elizabeth Slinger Road in West Didsbury. And that was to become the South Manchester Divisional Headquarters. So we moved to Elizabeth Slinger Road, and I worked there as a PC for a number of years before I went into traffic. But when I went to traffic, the traffic unit was at Platt Lane. And Platt Lane Police Station was on the C division. It wasn't even on our division initially. But at this point, the C and the D had merged into the C. They'd come together. So it was back in the right division, technically. So I went to Platt Lane Police Station and I was working from there. If you remember, that first meeting with the chief superintendent in his office at Platt Lane, that later became the parade room for the traffic unit. So I'll put a photograph up here just so you can see Platt Lane Police Station. That is Platt Lane Police Station. No longer there. The parade room was, if you look where the Range Rover is parked outside the front door where the police sign is, the windows directly above on the first floor was the parade room. The exit to the car park is in the right-hand corner, past the Range Rover and sort of over in the corner. Now, this police station, the traffic unit used to be in a little row of houses just next to the police station in the car park, but just next to it. But as this police station started to wind down and started to become less and less used, the traffic unit moved in on the first floor and took up half of the whole first floor. This side wasn't the traffic unit, it was locker rooms and such. But the traffic unit and the inspector's office and the sergeant's office and stuff were all to the right, above the Range Rover and further away. So this was where I spent many happy days, where the traffic cars always parked outside or against the wall here. But one of the interesting things that I want to talk to you about really is about this. When Elizabeth Slinger Road opened, it had a custody suite all of its own. And much like the custody suite that very different to the custody suite I worked at Middlewich when I was in Cheshire. But the principle is the same. And the principle being that there are occasions, the custody facilities were set up so that they're secure. So a van or a vehicle with a detainee or a prisoner, depending on which word you want to use, will come to a custody suite. There will be secure entrance with gates and stuff, then into a secure van dock area. Now, Elizabeth Slinger Road, it was just a van dock, and you could just reverse or drive a van in, and the gates would come down behind it. The roller shutter would come down behind it, just one van at a time. At Middlewich, we had a huge one. You could get 5 or 6 different vans in there all at the same time, and big shutter doors that closed to keep it secure. Once you're in there, you then buzzed into a holding area, and then eventually you buzzed into custody. So there's several stages of security to get through in order to get into the charge area and get your prisoner booked in. So we'll show you Platt Lane. Platt Lane had a custody suite. It was when we were up on the first floor in the traffic department, as far as I'm aware, the custody suite was no longer operating. It had since closed. But one of the very first prisoners that I made, not while I was being tutored or going around the division, but one of the first arrests that I made with my, the first arrest that I made with my tutor, which was a shoplifter, I think, came to this police station, and the custody sergeant listened to all the circumstances of the arrest, looked up and said, unlawful arrest then, At which point my bottom fell out and I went as white as a sheet, and then thought, no, wait a minute, I'm definitely right. At which point he looked up at me, grinned and said, your detention, and looked at the prisoner and said, your detention's authorised, and off we went. Anyway, sidetracking to one side for a minute. This is Platt Lane Police Station, and the custody suite was on the ground floor to the end, this end of the building, and around the back. And if you look to the very left-hand side of the picture, there's a little blue door. That was the entrance to the custody suite. So you would drive into the car park from the opposite end of the building, come around the car park, pull up near where this Volvo is, and then reverse the van into that area there. Now, once the van is in that area, there is no dock, no gates that come across to secure the area, nothing. At the back of that area was an old, unused, and had been for many years and was just storerooms now, but it was an old mortuary. And just some outbuildings, and then a wall between us and the houses behind us with some barbed wire on the top. That was it, nothing else. So once you backed your van into that place, you opened the door, you had to get hold of your prisoner, take them to that door, and when you get to that door, there's a buzzer. And you buzz on the buzzer and they go, oh yeah, come on in, and they buzz and release the door, and you push that door and walk in with your prisoner and shut that door behind you. That was it. When I look back and think about how secure custody was at Middlewich and what a professional setup it was there, with a purpose-built custody suite, Platt Lane was immensely insecure, and really, sometimes you think, I don't remember a great deal ever happening, but you sort of look and think the potential for something to have gone wrong was huge. But maybe we just policed differently then, I suppose, and so it was never much of an issue, but it was very odd for it to be like that. And so the other thing with Platt Lane was it was really old. So the cell corridor had got old wooden doors with hatches, flaps in, and inside they were all tiled walls, and the doors were quite small. You had to sort of duck down to go through and into the doors. It was so ancient, it was unbelievable, and in many regards quite a tragedy really when they demolished the whole thing, because there was a piece of history there. But very fond memories of working at Platt Lane, and happy days. Eventually, at Elizabeth Slinger Road, they decided to build an annex. So it was basically a building on one length. Get my hand in the picture. It was one straight length of building, and they built a T onto it basically, and made an extension. And in the extension, the traffic unit was going to be housed. So at a certain point, we were the last people in Platt Lane, and eventually we moved out of Platt Lane, and it was empty for a long time then before it was finally handed over and we went to work at Elizabeth Slinger Road. But when you think about the fact that this had the custody suite downstairs, it had a front counter, it had a canteen on the ground floor, the chief inspector's office and stuff on the first floor, the superintendent on the first floor, roll call were on the first floor, which was the management of staffing and shifts and rotations of blocks and across the whole division. And then on the top floor, we also had the comm suite. The control room for the D division was up on the top floor in Platt Lane. And I've actually, downstairs in my garage, I've got a big metal cupboard that used to be on the first floor, on the top floor at Platt Lane, outside the control room, was used as a cupboard that they kept all the brew kit and stuff in, and it was being chucked out and thrown onto a skip, and I grabbed it and it went into the back of my car. Because if you're throwing it out, I'm going to recycle it and keep it, and it's still down there now and working, and serving a job that would otherwise have just been chucked out. But yeah, many happy days working there. Like I say, we eventually moved to Elizabeth Slinger Road, But one little story that I will say, it wasn't me that was pursuing at the time, but there was a pursuit one night around the Withington and Fallowfield areas there, and we were on duty, listening, waiting for trying to get involved with this pursuit. And you can hear the commentary coming over the radio, and the officer was saying, yes, the vehicle is on such and such a road, and now it's on Wilbraham Road, and it's turned left into this road, and da-da-da, and it's down, I think it's Hart Road, I think it's called. I'm not entirely sure it says, but if I've got it wrong, but down Hart Road, it says it's along Hart Road towards Platt Lane, and it's left into Platt Lane, and now it's left into the police station car park, and pulled up outside the custody doors, and two detained. And they'd actually this officer had got into a pursuit, and the guy that was driving the stolen car drove it all the way to the police station, pulled into the car park, pulled in outside the custody doors at the side there, and handed themselves in. Which was very amusing to hear it on the radio at the time when you're listening to them and what have you. But Jenny, yes, we had a canteen on the ground floor. You go and get your breakfast down there, and they were a mainstay of police stations. Canteens were just a huge thing, and everybody used them. But over the years, they gradually were removed, and less of them. And I remember the canteen at Elizabeth Slinger Road, which was brilliant, and the cook that ran it is still a friend of mine on Facebook now, and she was brilliant. She was ace. And we all said she should set up a breakfast van just outside, and we'd all come and get the food from her there. But she decided to go in different directions. But it was a sad day when they closed down the canteen and turned it into an office. Elizabeth Slinger Road, we used to have a recreation room. It had a dartboard and a snooker table, and you could go on your refs, and a TV in the corner, and you could just go on your refs and be away from work and just sit and relax for a while, and just an ear to the radio just in case you get turned out. Took it all out and turned it into an office. It was really heartbreaking when you look back at it now and you think your well-being and the facilities there to try and help you stay sane, if you like, and stay fed, were just being stripped out as unimportant. It's really quite sad. But anyway, there we go. No van dock at Platt Lane, no security, just a wobbly wooden door on a buzzer that they'd buzz you in and let you in with. But of course, Platt Lane was where Richard Madeley was when Richard Madeley was arrested. That's where Richard Madeley went. I always remember very well that as you walked into the charge desk was like an L shape, and you walked in and there was a desk facing you and the desk to your left as well. And then to your right was the door down the cell corridor, and it had about 8 cells, something like that. But we used to put 2 and 3 people in the cells sometime, 2 and 3 people to a cell. And if you were a jailer, which meant you were the PC working in custody, looking after and helping the sergeant, all you needed was a pen to do your writing and a lighter, because you'd go down the cell corridor wing, lighting up all the lads who wanted a cigarette because they all smoked down in the cells. And you think, don't do that anymore. No smoking in custody. But they used to have, if they wanted a fag, they could have a fag out of the property and you lit them up. It's awful if you think about it. But there we go. That was Platt Lane. So that's it really for today, day 12, as I said. Tomorrow, day 13, unlucky for some, 2002. Got a story tomorrow about a seatbelt offence, and how that went from nothing to something. But otherwise, we'll see what tomorrow holds. So thank you for dropping in. Thank you for joining me tonight. Hope to see you tomorrow. Thanks, Jenny. And hopefully, didn't see you drop in, Laura. Thank you. Bye. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow on 33 years in 31 days, and we'll be looking at 2002. Take care, folks. Have a great evening. Be safe, and I will see you tomorrow.